Boogity, boogity,
Boogity,
boogity.
boogity. Hey guys, this is future Jason and Clay here. Hi, from the
Hey,
future
what's
of this
up?
of what we just recorded. We just wanted to let you know that this video does have a lot of spoilers for the movies we discussed. So if you haven't watched them yet, buyer beware.
Yeah, go watch the movies. Go watch all three of these movies. You won't hate us for it, and if you do, we like hate. And then watch this review, and then give it a thumbs up, and do all that stuff that YouTubers tell you to do because it helps the algorithm.
What he said, that guy right there.
That's
All right,
me.
guys. Yeah. So thanks and enjoy this episode.
Just hear those bells jingling and tingling too. We're just pants poopingly happy because it's the holidays, everybody.
Yay!
Hooray! Welcome.
Sorry, just had a little difficulty here. If you can still hear my bell ringing, just let me know and I'll cut it off. By the
It
way,
just adds to the whimsy and merriment. Let it ride.
yeah, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about this stupid hat, but I can't remember what I was gonna say.
You stole it from an elf that was dead.
I did. He was bloated. He had a big bottle of Jack in one hand, and looks like he went out with a bang. So no fault to that poor elf. But yeah,
they're immortal creatures, elves. You don't have to worry. You can kill them with wanton abandon, and there's no moral implications.
Woohoo! Then I've got so much elf blood on my hands. I just need to let you know that right now.
No gifts for the children this year, this Yuletide.
Woo. Well, guys, welcome to Cinematic Suffering. This is our special holiday edition, and I'm Jason.
I'm Clay.
And,
Christmas Clay.
Yeah, Christmas Clay. And welcome, you ho-ho-hos.
That's right.
Sorry, I got a cat right here that's just getting in the way. Yeah, so it's weird that we didn't have
cat.
That we didn't have a actual like a Halloween episode. We haven't had any special episodes over this past year, except for now.
Why are we just let it go? This? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer that we would do something for Halloween, but every day is Halloween when you're part of the Cinematic Suffering crew.
That's right. When you're part of the CS universe, where there's many multiverses around, and things just kind of collab and bulkheads, and it gets crazy around here. So, all right. Well, Clay, we sat down. We didn't sat down. We messaged each other, and we're like, hey, let's do like a special horror Christmas event.
And you suggested 3 holiday-themed Christmas movies. And as a little aside, I hate to give props to any kind of the streaming services because for the most part, I resent them. But I got to say, as a horror fan, you kind of, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches, as my buddy Tony put it. And I love that term. Shudder's great. Yeah, I almost hate to give them props because I wish that they gave us money, but it's great. I mean, it's like we have endless amounts of entertainment. Who knew that there were so many Christmas themed horror movies to pick from? And we were able to watch 3 on 3 crazy nights in a row. And we have 3 Christmas horror movies to talk about this episode.
Yeah, I thought I saw several. I suggested to Clay because I just seen him come through my queue. I've seen people suggest them. I was like, let's try to see something that's going to be somewhat enjoyable for both of us, and not a horrendous slog. Because I think we like to sit through those slogs when we're both at the same time.
Yeah, I like to bitch about those movies in real time.
Yeah. So we found a couple. I think the first one that came up on our list was "It's a Wonderful Knife."
It's a Wonderful Knife. That's the first one that we both watched. It's a 2023 film directed by Tyler McIntyre and written by Michael Kennedy. And they don't have a whole ton of credits aside from that. McIntyre wrote the script to Five Nights at Freddy's. So I haven't seen it yet, but my spider sense tells me it's a real piece of crap. But that's just my spider sense is often faulty. So
yeah, I've heard things about Five Nights at Freddy's for sure. But
Never played the games, but it seems like something that wouldn't translate well to the cinematic universe, and the reviews kind of reflect that from what I've seen. But I don't want to judge a movie I haven't seen. But
yeah, well, I mean, it also there's a bunch of spawns that, of similar movies that came out that were like based on Five Nights at Freddy, the video game, but they weren't called Five Nights at Freddy. There's several out there. Nick Cage is in one where he doesn't say a word throughout the entire movie.
oh yeah, what did not Maddie, but I know what you're talking about. It's got a very Five Nights at Freddy's vibe about it.
Yeah, there's a couple of those movies out there where the animatronics come to life. But we digress. We're not talking about Five Nights at Freddy's.
We are talking about this movie. I'll almost call it a fine movie. It's a very flawed movie, but we'll get into that. The basic premise, and let's just do a real quick run through of the cast. The big cast in this, some faces that you'll recognize. Jane Widdop plays the main character, Winnie. And Joel McHale is probably one of the more recognizable faces. It plays her dad. And Justin Long, who everybody knows as the Mac guy and the guy in the original Jeepers Creepers that got his eyeballs yoinked out as the...
spoilers!
if shame on you if you haven't seen it by now. I hope I ruined it for you. But he's the main bad guy in this one. And the whole setup is that it's a wonderful life, but it's done as a holiday themed slasher film. She wishes that she was never born. And then she sees her life as if she wasn't there, but there's also a serial killer loose. And hilarity is meant to ensue.
It's meant to ensue. Yeah, I will say that I do like Justin Long a lot. And I've been a fan of his for a long time, ever since that Jeepers Creepers. He's a really funny actor, and I think he does a great job in this. He's just totally hamming it up, eating the camera up with his fake teeth and his weird presentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he did a great job. I think, though, there's this one actor who's in there. She's Cassandra Nod.
Okay.
That she played in... Oh man, that movie she's the one that has the large birthmark on her face.
Right. I was definitely gonna bring her up. She plays the girlfriend of Aunt Gail, who was played by Catherine Isabel, who I really like. This is and we can get into this, but this is a movie where it's one of these frustrating movies where the supporting cast is way stronger than the protagonist.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Jane Widdop, but her character, I couldn't relate to her. I didn't like her. And I found her to be irritating. And she was surrounded by all these people I like their characters better. I like their performances better.
It was, there's this, like, they're trying to blend this kind of like fine line between drama and then also, this kind of a horror comedy thing that was going on. So it was kind of rough when it came to pacing, things like that.
Tone was all off.
Yeah.
It was a movie that I kept being reminded of Totally Killer, which we talked about in one of our previous episodes, which was a similar theme and similar plot device in a way. It was time travel instead of I was never born kind of thing. And it utilized a lot of the same kind of comedy beats, but it did it so much better. I actually smiled and chuckled during that movie. I didn't even crack a smile during this one for the most part. Yeah. I found it to be kind of irritating in a lot of places.
Yeah, I questioned some things when it came to the story and the what was going on. So I have to admit that I was confusing this with the other movie, other time show. What was it called again?
It's called Totally Killer.
Totally Killer. That I was about to bring up. Oh yeah, what about that time machine that the girl had that she just stuck a knife in and it worked? And I was like, oh wait a minute, that's not this movie.
That's not this movie.
I just forgot. I was about to bring it up too. I was like, no, this is a totally different movie. This is
showing your age there, son.
So yeah, and I did mention Cassandra Nod before because we did see her in Influencer, which I thought she was outstanding in. But in this movie,
totally wasted talent in this.
Yeah. Yeah, and this one she did absolutely nothing. She was a background to this. I think she maybe said 2 lines, if that.
She had such a minimal role. It was such a waste of talent
Yeah.
because she was such a strong character in Influencer. She had such a good presence about her, and just really inhabited this evil role without overdoing it. And then this one, she's a supporting character to a supporting character. She's
Right.
the aunt's girlfriend, and it's like, okay, yeah.
I know, and I was like very happy when I first saw her appear. I was like, "Oh, awesome, she's in this." I was like, "Oh, maybe she'll be more integral to the plot." She'll be, no, absolutely not. She's just background filler, pretty much.
Be like if Al Pacino was the mailman. He's like, "Here's your mail." It's like, okay.
Here's your mail.
There's a lot of ads in here. Okay, Al.
Now, I can't remember. I do remember certain things about the original "It's a Wonderful Life," and I know they're trying to mirror and parallel some of the things in that movie, but I don't really remember "It's a Wonderful Life" having this plot where he's encountering a town full of people who are just mesmerized by this one man who's buying up everything, and he's actually some kind of demonic spirit, and that's where I felt everything was just falling apart.
Oh no, I'm glad you brought up those two things because I'll comment on them in order. Number one, it's one of the main failings of this movie is that it stars a bunch of young people who have absolutely no context for "It's a Wonderful Life." That film doesn't even mean anything to us, and
Right.
like I turned 50 not that long ago. That the film is so old that I don't even care about it that much. I barely know what it's about because it was on in the background. I found it boring when I was a child. So I don't know why they thought it was clever to, I feel like they came up with a title and the premise was clever enough that they just kind of forged ahead without thinking that it has there's no emotional pull. There's no social, cultural relevance to it. So that was annoying. And the second part was that annoyed me that you brought up how this guy had this magical ability to hypnotize everybody in the town. They just pulled that out of the thin air. And I guess their justification is that, okay, there's a mystical kind of impetus for the plot, so we can do any other kind of mystical bullshit that we want. We can just shoehorn it in there, which pissed me off.
Yeah, it was very unsatisfying. I was very annoyed with it that this, I was like, okay, I was on board with, her not, just like "It's a Wonderful Life." I don't remember much, like you said, from the movie, but I know the basic premise is he was about to kill himself, and then James, or whatever the guy's name is,
whoever Clarence is, the angel.
Yeah, he's about to kill himself, and the angel steps in and said, "Well, don't do this," or whatever. Anyways, I
wish I was never born.
I wish I was never born, kind of thing. And so that's the premise, pretty much. And it doesn't. But we know from that original film there was no evil entity controlling a town. Yeah, we know it's like. So I was just wondering, why couldn't they've gone into another different direction where she tries to set things right by trying to stop the serial killer? Because the premise is she stops the serial killer in her own timeline, but it ruins her life because the town or the bigwigs blame her for his death, which she did. She killed the serial killer, who happened to be the big town go-to guy, right? The big rich guy.
He was like the local kind of big dick in town. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of a better way to say it. He's just like he's the big guy in town. And we're not spoiling anything, by the way, because if you've watched the trailer, they tell you this. It's one of those rare movies where who did it is never even in question. You're just told from the beginning that this is the antagonist. So it's like, it's okay. I'm not saying that there needs to be this big reveal of who the killer is, but they still don't do that much interesting with it. It was, my biggest problem with it, aside from those plot holes that you're bringing up that are just gaping plot holes, is that none of the jokes landed. I couldn't identify all these characters that I liked are just ancillary characters, and it was annoying and cringy and
Yeah, you said yeah, you faded out on dumb there, so I was like, did you say dumb or is he going on to another?
Is he gonna be more
is he-
articulate than that? No, it's just dumb. It was just watching her flounder around at the end of the movie doing the Ebenezer Scrooge. It's Christmas and everything's good shit. Just made me
Right?
want to kill everything. Like,
Yeah, yeah. This is we're all. I'll just put a little disclaimer at the beginning that this is a spoiler or whatever, but
yeah, and grow
that
up. That's how life is.
but we see what happens to her in the credits of the film. So she stops the serial killer, and that's the main driving force for when she wishes that she wasn't even around, because she has PTSD after it. I thought that was a legitimate
Something they could have worked with, but
something they could have worked with. She had PTSD, because she killed a guy, even though he was a serial killer. She's recovering from her best friend being killed, and everyone's treating her like nothing happened the year before. When this is a very still raw experience for her, and then she just goes on, where she wishes she was never existed, and then some magical thing happens, and then she's in this transport in this other dimension where if she never existed, this killer would continue his rampage and would continue to kill throughout the years, and for some reason it would not get stopped. But so I was hoping that we would see her finally uncover who he is, go on to these little adventures to try to get the people to believe that who the real killer is, and that he was, and reveal who he is, and then expose him, and then hey, the town is great and they know who killed. But it just drifted off into the supernatural, even more supernatural than Not Wishing to Be Born thing.
yeah, like I was thinking of, for some reason my mind went to this is a kind of a weird thing to think about, but my mind went to the movie Big. Like, remember how good of a movie Big was? And
Yeah,
it was because there was this ridiculous, absurd premise that, like, that they asked the audience to go on, but then the rest of the movie was so grounded, and the performances kind of were so good and pushed you through the narrative and took you along, that you accepted this premise that this little boy made a wish on a thing and then became
right.
the thing. As soon as they start bringing in mind control, and this guy is this Pied Piper character, it's
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
kind of, that's the last straw in a movie that's already pissing you off because it
Yeah.
sucks so bad. I mean, like, literally everybody was better than the main character. Her romantic and sidekick interest, however you want to say it, her like romantic lead,
Yeah.
I found
Bernie.
to be 100% more charming than her.
I think in the end, for me, it was an average movie. It wasn't the greatest. I think I was entertained up until, now I'm not saying entertaining as being, overwhelmed entertained, but it kept my interest. I saw some cool kills, and the ending sucked, but I give it was an average movie for me.
No, it wasn't terrible. I just wish that it set out to do two things, to be three things. Let's say it set out to be kind of charming and capture Christmas in this novel way, to kind of have some good serial killer stuff, and to be funny. And I felt that it fell short in all three ways. But like many of the movies we review, it had the best intention. So
Yeah,
mediocre at best. So
mediocre at best.
yeah, like not trying to rush, but we got three of these to go through, and I feel that we're on to bigger and better movies. Do you want to do The Sacrifice Game next, or Christmas Bloody Christmas? Which one do you want to save till last?
Let's jump into Christmas Bloody Christmas.
Okay, excellent. So, Christmas Bloody Christmas is a 2022 movie directed and written by Joe Begos. Apologies, Mr. Begos, if I'm saying your name incorrectly. And his other credits include a movie called VFW and Bliss, both of which look pretty kind of entertaining, or at least interesting. And one bit of trivia about this movie: the basic setup is imagine Silent Night, Deadly Night, but the main character is the Terminator, who's also Santa. That's basically the premise. Serial killer who's a robot that looks like Santa Claus.
Right.
The film was originally pitching a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and that fell through. So he pitched this idea that he just came up with, and they said, no, it's too different from the original pitch that you were given us. But he decided that he liked it so much anyway that he was going to work up a script, did that during the pandemic, and ended up making his movie, which we're getting ready to review now.
Right. Yeah. And I remember you watched it before me, or you got a little head start on me, and you're like, boy, this movie sure says fuck a lot. They love to start off with all the dirty swear words.
I mean, they say the F word so many times that the subtitles can't keep up with it. They literally can't keep up with all the fuck.
No.
They don't even make sense in the context of the sentence. Just firing so many F bombs off.
And I'm not saying that's a drawback in the movie. I'm seeing like the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and Shudder scores are all kind of like middling.
They're kind of like that.
Yeah, they're kind of. But I will say, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Riley Dandy and Sam Delich. Their characters are Tori and Robbie, and they really have a great interaction with each other. I love how the actors are conversing, and it feels like real and natural conversation. Maybe not too real, because there are some like meta kind of like moments though, but there's some arguments they have that I've had with friends of mine, and they talk about metal, they talk about horror, and
well, they're both they're both work in a music store and like an album store, so they're both immersed in the music world. One would assume the metal world is what they lean towards, so that I could see how we could both kind of get into that.
Yeah. And I did have my doubts at the beginning, just because you always have your doubts, because I've always seen Christmas Bloody Christmas come across my Shudder stream, watch, not my watch list, but you'll see it come across, and I was like, next, and I'll
it's asking a lot.
So I was figuring like let's give it a try, and it look, it's not a perfect movie. Don't get me wrong. There's some stuff that I feel they do horribly wrong, but at the same time, it is a fun movie, and I was engaged fully into the crazy antics of these kids.
I enjoyed it too. Like you, I have criticisms of it. I feel like, tell me if you disagree with this. I feel like Joe Begos sees himself as kind of a contemporary of, or an understudy of Tarantino, and that he tried to fill his movie with a lot of poppy dialogue, and the characters are constantly riffing and saying witty things at one another. It falls a little bit short, in that the acting can't stay up to Tarantino. It's a high bar to reach for.
Yeah, but, I thought, I agree. There is some Tarantino-isms or homages to him, or influence, for sure. I thought the actors did fine, for what they had, and
it was a fun low budget romp, and the end scene where, like, I was kind of like, there were things that kind of bugged me about it, and I was kind of like teeter-tottering with the movie throughout, but what pushed me over into really appreciating it and enjoying it, and urging people to see it and enjoy it for the silly low budget romp that it is, was the finale of the movie. You could tell that it was a very obvious homage to the climax of the first Terminator film.
Yep.
And like you're never going to reach those heights again, but it was so much fun. Like you could tell that they just put everything. It was the almost literal kind of fireworks finale of the movie, because there's so much sparks and blood and chaos and explosions. That it was hard to not kind of appreciate what they were trying to do, and kind of go along for this vulgar ride. There's unnecessary amounts of cunnilingus and oral activities in it, which, hey, fine, man. That's it's a horror movie. Make it as vulgar as you want.
I mean, there's one great part, the first of the when the couple is in this toy store, and you hear them like talking to each other while the robot killer is walking around, and she's like, if you don't get this right, you'll have to eat my ass. And he's like, well, why don't I just eat your ass anyway? She's like, well, go for it. And then you see the camera, his face goes right into her butt, and
into her dump truck of an ass. Yeah.
I was laughing my ass, and I started and then when the next graphic, not really graphic, but the guy starts the friend starts performing cunnilingus on the main character, and he's ripping into her, and you actually almost see like he's going in, and I'm like, oh my god. And I was
Well, I got the idea that he was blowing lint out of her belly button. I was like, "That's you're a good 6 inches north of the goal there, buddy." But who am
well,
I?
yeah,
to judge?
some of those scenes, but when he for that first time when he goes down and you see him pull her panties apart, and you start see, and he goes in, and I was just like, all right, then now we're getting into some softcore porn. Let me get some
It was
wine real
pretty
quick.
hot.
I need
Yeah,
to
I'm
turn
not
the
gonna.
lights down.
Yeah, it was and it's one of the things that kind of made it an endearing movie because part of the reason that I've always loved horror, and especially what got me into it as a rowdy teenager, was that it's this it's this other kind of genre. It's a subgenre. It's gross, it's vulgar, it's crass, it's base, but it's like, yeah, man, I mean, that's the kind of art I like, is the stuff that kind of pisses off some people, disgusts others, and fills others, degenerates like myself, with giddy delight.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was filled with giddy delight because I even messaged you. I was like, oh my god, this movie has everything. It does.
Oh, yeah, it makes you
swearing and ass eating and
yeah. That's another. That's another Tarantino-ism. I felt like Joe, our director, Mr. Joe here, was saying, like, how Quentin Tarantino just kind of puts his fetishes out there, like just booties and feet and stuff. That's what he likes in his movies. I'm gonna put it out there that I like eating ass and pussy. Like it's on his resume or something.
yeah. And these characters drink an ungodly amount of alcohol. Like,
oh
the
my
liquor
god,
is flowing like waterfalls, and I'm just thinking, I'm getting sick to my stomach thinking of it, because I drink. When I have like 4 shots, I'm already like feeling it. But these people
fucking
are like
hammered. And
yeah,
I'm a pretty seasoned drinker. I'm not an alcoholic, even though
right.
I've been drinking wine throughout this whole podcast. But like I was saying the same thing. Like when I was watching them, like every other scene, they're taking like double shots
Yeah.
of bourbon. I'm like, they would be puking out of their
Oh my.
eyeballs by this
And
point.
barely able to walk, much less than run away from a robot killer trying to come after them.
Yeah, like when they go home to have sex, I was saying, like, this is a crime for both participants. You're breaking the law right now.
Let me go into some consistencies that I found throughout the film that I would have to take note of. For one thing, there was a lot of screaming of "behind you, behind you," and there were probably like 4 or 5 separate instances where people were like behind you, and they're like, and someone's like,
it's not going to work on me.
Not gonna work on me, and then they get killed from behind, and it happened several consistent times. So I was very glad to see that consistency throughout the film. That someone was yelling behind you, behind you. Windshields getting ripped off. The front windshields of cars just getting ripped off. There's at least 3 or 4 times that happened. I was like, oh, okay, they're consistent about the windshields coming out at least. But I just thought, and then you mentioned the ending, and it was totally an homage to the Terminator. But I was just but even the Terminator had a limit to what it could and couldn't do. And then it finally was, in the Terminator, he gets crushed. And Jesus Christ, this fucking Santa monster was crushed, blown up, electrified. His skin melted off, it shot, and I was just hoping for it to end eventually. I was just like, okay.
Yeah. Like it was funny because it's like that's where all I want all the money to go is into pyrotechnics. It's like, okay, but we're not gonna have enough money to make any of the gore effects look like anything but just silly rubber heads. I don't care. I want cars to explode. I want Santa to explode and just a blossom of fireworks by the end of the film.
Yeah, it was exhausting to watch. I don't know how long that end scene went on, but it was just like you think, oh, she's gonna crawl out into the street and be saved, or that's the end. But nope, he's still coming after her. She does something, and then he falls down. You think he's dead, and she's, well, that's the end. Oh nope, he's coming back. Eventually we're just like, okay, movie, let's wrap it up here.
Yeah, it's so self-indulgent by the end, but
I was glad to see all the explosions and
it's fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. Don't get me wrong, but some things just need to take a breather, take a stand back sometime.
Well, one other consistency that I want to add to your to your good observations about consistent themes is the amount of just migraine inducing eye bleeding LED lights everywhere. Like
Did
you
it?
could go into the bar and it's just like just sizzling, it's giving you a sunburn. There's so much light. And then they go home and every picture frame and everything is just burning your retinas out.
Yeah.
There's just it was just an assault of LED lights
Yeah,
everywhere.
and then they take it to the next level because they kept accelerating. So by the end, the robot Santa is now emitting those beams out of his head, and it comes flips around. And even when it flips around and looks towards the camera, it feels like they're beaming into your eyes. You know, like this shouldn't
Yeah.
be happening. Why is the reflection of the eyes on the wall behind me? It was crazy.
It was a lot, but it's one of those movies that was like I don't know. It was like if it had been more competent in some ways, I like wouldn't have liked it as much. It's this is a perfect movie if you have friends over, if it's a friend based Christmas and you just have a friend group instead of a family. Like let's
Yeah.
say you hate your family and you just like hanging out with your degenerate drinking buddies and you all like horror movies and fucked up stuff. This is the perfect movie to throw on because it's Christmas, but it's anti-Christmas in a way.
Yeah.
So I recommend it if you like goofy, fun nonsense.
Yeah, I had a fun time with this. So I'd give it a little higher rating than maybe IMDb. I'd give it more of like a 7, but they give it like a 5.1. So I'd bring it up a little bit more because it was just it was a fun ride. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the violence and the raunchy debauchery that was going on. So I'm all into it.
Yeah, like bands like Ghoul and Guar and stuff like that are definitely not for everybody, but they're for the people that like it, and
Right.
that's Christmas, Bloody Christmas.
Absolutely. All right, Clay, let's head on to our last, but certainly not least.
Definitely not least, The Sacrifice Game was a 2023 film directed by Jen Wexler and written by Sean Redlitz and Jen Wexler. And this is hands down, I imagine we'll both agree, is definitely the most competently executed, written, conceptualized cinematography, all of the things that make a horror film kind of stand out among the fray. This is it. This was a really good one in my estimation.
Yeah, and it throws a little curveball at you near the end, but I'm not going to say I wasn't even like I felt like I could predict what was going to happen. I knew bad people were going to get their comeuppance, and I was very happy to see that. But the bad people were bad people, and they were
real bad.
And you just wanted to see them die, and you just wanted to hopefully they get tortured in the process. So, you know, we get this we get the opening scene is pretty much them, this band of like 4 people, I think, and they're
very Charles Manson-esque.
Oh, very Charles Manson, yes. Just going to homes, slaughtering people, and we don't know why they're slaughtering people in their homes, but it eventually reveals itself as the movie progresses. But then we're kind of transported to this all-girl boarding school in the middle of nowhere, you know, in the mountains or the snow or whatever, and it starts jumping into some cool themes and moods, and it may be somewhat of a slow burn. I don't know if I even want to call this a slow burn because
I wouldn't call it that because
I don't think I
like
will.
if you enjoy good acting and just really damn good camera work, sound design, score, like all of the check boxes that make film geeks kind of perk up. It does a really good job on all of them. The main characters in the film, Madison Baines and Georgia Atkin, Chloe Levin, and that's just the main characters. All of the supporting characters and the antagonists, everybody is really damn good in this film.
Yeah, the when I think about the killers, they're all very four distinct personalities. They're all not the same raving lunatics that you think a Manson-esque kind of killer would be. They're, they all have a purpose. They all have a design. They all have their own motivations for why they are doing this. And the actors who are doing it are who's the one actor that it was part of the four killers? He was the one with the car that they
Oh, I don't remember the characters' names, but he was the shaggy hippie looking dude that was the
yeah
most Manson esque of the
he
crew. He's
yeah
the
his
one that looked the most like Charles
yeah,
Manson.
the character's name was Doug, and he gave some kind of
Hmm.
comedic relief to the
Yeah.
movie, which is really kind of heavy. Some of the heavy topics, as far as just murdering people, that's heavy enough. But so he lent kind of a comedic aspect to it, but we still put on a good performance that he's a psycho. You look
Well,
at yeah,
and again, like their motivation. Oh, spoilers. I'm not going to say it anymore. You're going to get spoilers. But their motivation is that they're trying to perform this ritual, and they commit so many murders, and the end point is this boarding school that's like I get the idea that it's a Catholic boarding school. It's a very religious kind of oppressive religious kind of overtones to
yeah,
it, but they have a library that's got like Necronomicon type shit in the basement, and
yeah.
that's where the killers are going to. And what they're trying to do is unleash a demon that's going to give them all of their best wishes, all
Right.
of their
Well,
desires.
I think that's a point they made in the movie. It was like they were trying to summon a demon. They
Right.
didn't realize they were actually unleashing a demon because we find out that the demon has been there the entire time and has pretty much influenced these killers to come back and think they're performing a ritual to summon the demon, but they're actually performing a ritual to release the demon, and that's this demon's overall evil plot, scheme, and the innocents at this school kind of get caught up in the mass murder aspect of it.
Well, and like it was one of those movies that you weren't quite sure. There was a point in the movie, let's say about like the tail end of the second act, where where you'd start to kind of throw out your own theories. And
Yeah,
I liked what they did. I liked the resolution there. That's probably the way I would have gone too.
yeah,
But in a way, I was kind of sad that it wasn't my initial prediction was that the main girl that ends up being the demon that they're unleashing. I wanted her to be just this very troubled young lady that's such a psychopath and so sociopathic that she's able to get into people's heads and make them and manipulate them. I wanted
yeah,
it to be that. Instead, she was just an actual demon,
yeah.
which they did great. No shade to the movie that they went that route. I probably would have liked it a little bit better if the twist was there is no supernatural element there. It's literally it's all about weakness of mind and
Yeah.
people's ability to kind of manipulate folks like that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I even thought of that when I was watching the movie because sometimes I wasn't even trying to call it. I think from the moment that I think I kind of knew that that girl was going to be the demon anyways, but the lead up to that I didn't even think of that, but that'd be a cool alternate kind of ending to it for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't even thought of that.
some great performances and some consistently good plot developments and dialogue, character development. All that stuff is really good.
Yeah, I think for anybody like walking by, like my wife wasn't sitting there watching it, but she was walking by every once in a while, and there's some things that she walked by, and she's like, "Oh, is this like another funny games kind of thing?" And
That's crazy that you brought that up.
yeah,
I was reminded of that movie in a way, and
yeah,
Strangers.
and strangers, yeah, that it's like now I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess there is a similarity there, but it doesn't have that full nihilistic view, of what
No,
funny Funny Games and Strangers, that it's leading somewhere that's going to be a great outcome, as opposed to those other two movies, which is just pure
just
uh
just nihilism, like you
just
said.
nihilism. Yeah, pure
Yeah.
nihilism. So
Like
I
like they're good people that get got in this movie, but you at the end there are certain characters that have plot armor, and you're kind of glad for it in a way. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I don't necessarily want to be drug into the heart of darkness with this one, but
right.
they do a good job of kind of keeping you right on the cusp of it.
Yeah, and I really like it felt like the typical trope, of girls being mean girls, and picking on the girls that are quiet, or picking on the girls
Hmm.
that are weird, who draw a lot. It's something we see typically throughout these movies. I think it's used well here. It's not just a comment. It's not used just to throw out, say, oh, look at our heroine, she's an outcast, look how cool she is. No, this was, I think it was used very well. And then how everything comes to a point at the very end, once the killers get their comeuppance, and how it wraps up. I guess I'll just say it, that the demon and her friend, Samantha and what's her name, Clara, turn up to be friends at the end. The demon and the quiet girl. And I thought that was a great ending for some reason. I was just
Yeah, it
like,
was.
that's awesome. I wonder what evil things they're going to go on to do in the future.
Yeah, it was. It was a movie that knew what it wanted to accomplish. It took time to really. It took the time and care to get into every individual character's motivations. Like and it's weird as the movie went on. Like you don't forgive the bad guys for their savagery, because what they're doing is just unforgivable and
Yeah.
terrible. But it kind of brings you into their world and into to what makes them such fragile, broken people, and you understand them a bit better. And it's this
Yeah.
confliction that's fun to go on as a movie viewer. I don't want to
Yeah.
oversell it, but I was really pleasantly surprised with how consistent and fun, and also kind of like challenging it was in all the right ways. It did
Yeah.
everything that you want from a horror movie. It gave you all that stuff, and it gave you stuff to think about after you've watched it, which is kind of a lot of that to ask of a movie,
It
and
is.
you appreciate it when you get it.
Yeah, and especially a low, this is kind of a lower budget one, but I guess you would consider, but it's one of those things, and I think, like you said, that the characters are all layered. There's not
Yeah.
the killers. You think, oh, they're just sadistic, killing people and smiling while they do it. Yeah, there's the one guy that is like that, but he has his motivations, just like the rest of the killers have theirs, and there's layers to why they're doing it, and that's what I really
Yeah.
appreciated. So even though you kind of want a certain killer to die, at the other time you're like, but maybe there's some redemption for him, but there's really no redemption for him. But
It's too late,
it's
kind
too
of
late for
thing.
that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So,
Um,
and this is one of the interesting kind of quandaries that I have about our own podcast in a way, is like, if you haven't seen the movie yet, we've probably ruined a lot of it for you. But at the same time, there's like, maybe you're one of these people that doesn't mind spoilers and you enjoy the kind of the evolution of this. We did
yeah,
warn you, but
yeah,
I mean, it's like it's impossible for us to talk about this stuff in the way that we do, and as open and enthusiastically as we do, without giving you spoilers. So that's just kind of the way it is.
right. I really hate talking in generality sometimes, where I
Yeah,
can't be specific about what I'm talking about, especially when you enjoy a movie or even hate a
yeah.
movie as much as we do at times. So yeah, there'll definitely be a preliminary spoiler warning at the beginning of this. But I guess that wraps up our 3 holiday
Yeah, yeah.
films.
It ran a bit long, but that's a good thing in a way, because it means that we had a lot to talk about. It was really fun for me. And
Yeah,
as we go into the end of the year, I just want to say, like, I really appreciate the audience, and I appreciate all the work that you do. I appreciate being able to do this podcast with you. It's been such a blast to be able to do this with my buddy that I've known
yeah.
for so long, and I'm looking forward to wherever this journey journey takes us. And I really appreciate everybody that's been on it with us. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. And I've had such a blast over this past year. It's weird that it hasn't been a full year yet, but we for the majority of this year we've both been working on Cinematic Suffering and making it what it is now. And definitely couldn't have done it without you and your talent and me pinging ideas off of you and you
It's been so much fun, dude. I
and
really enjoy it.
yeah, I'm having a great time, and 2024 is going to bring bigger and better things. I can know it, I can feel it.
I can too.
Yeah, we're gonna keep on having a good time. And if you've commented on our videos in the past, thank you so much for commenting. If you like this video, leave a comment below, leave a thumbs up, subscribe. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. And if not a 5-star review, then don't leave a review at all. It's not very Christmas of you, is it?
No, it's not. Help your fellow man.
But to everybody, have a happy Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, and the rest.
Festivus.
Oh yeah,
Pray Satan.
Pray Satan.
Everybody.
Yeah. So until next time, thank you guys, and we'll catch you probably next year. Right?
Which is not far away. Yes,
far
very
away.
soon. Well, thanks, Suffers. We love you.
Bye, guys.
Later.
Blah 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 ding blah 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 bee blah bee boo. Bling 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 bing blah bee loo doo blah bee boo. This is a Christmas jingle, jingle, jingling jing. I'm just doing it till the very end of this sting. How long can I keep this stupid toot?